Dame time, baby. It's
Dame time, baby. Right here. Talk about that on Locked On Mavs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com, the Dame Dollar Father, the One More Thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Coming up on today's pod, we're going to tell you why Damian Lillard will be a Dallas Maverick by the end of the week.
you gave it a timeline.
I'm just kidding, guys.
The TVA is showing up in your apartment, right? In your house right now.
Oh, man. I mean, the Damian Lillard stuff, I'm excited for the fan base that at least just gets excited for dreams, and that's fun. Like, let's have fun with it. But we're going to talk about Damian Lillard, but we're a couple of days removed from all the stuff. Our pod came out on Friday. It's been honestly pretty good for us just to it's been good that there's not been games over the weekend for us to like truly unplug for 2 days out of the week, because there during the playoffs and season, you know, we do post-game pods and everything. So we're rolling like 6 pods a week sometimes. But it was good the past few days to really just step away from it. I flew a kite with my son over the weekend. It was his first kite, which was fun.
Stepped away, flew a kite.
But now just getting back into the Maverick stuff and trying to see it from a different angle. We should get more stuff to come out this week as far as like official stuff and presser. And the Mavericks have a new GM and a new head coach.
They do, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Jason Kidd, why the Mavericks hired Jason Kidd. We talked a lot about the negatives, I think, on Friday. We'll talk a little bit more about the positives and some of the conversation around Jason Kidd right now. But first, let's get into Damian Lillard. Like, Damian Lillard is the big story right now in the NBA, and I've seen some people, like a lot of people on Twitter, obviously having fun with it, doing the dumb photoshops and everything. But somebody asked me, why do we always do this to ourselves? Why do we always, when a superstar player is frustrated or antsy or whatever, why do we always just say, oh, he's coming to the Mavs, or what if Damian Lillard could come to the Mavs? Okay, first of all, it's just fun. It's sports, right? Like at that point, like with just player movement and all that, it's sports. He has, at least told Chris Haynes that he's considering he may ask for a trade from the Blazers, which is a big step for Damian Lillard. So it's not like he's straight up asked for a trade request yet, but he's on the verge of doing so. And so it's just a fun thing to do, to envision and imagine that player on your favorite team. Understand that. The other thing is, it's kind of hard to ignore right now with the Mavericks situation, right? Like the Chris Haynes story about Jason Kidd being the coach that Damian Lillard wanted to play for. However true that was, I trust Chris Haynes with Lillard stuff because he seems really close to the situation, seems really close to Damian Lillard. So there was that. And then also Nico Harrison, really close to Damian Lillard, right? He was there when when Damian Lillard hit the shot against OKC, when he's, making the face at the camera like that, when he got mobbed by all those.
Nico's on the bottom of that pile.
He's there. He's not at the bottom of the pile, but
he was there though. Yeah,
he was actually really there, like no cap. Like he was really
there. Also, instead of another thing in that, like Dame's a huge Adidas athlete. Okay, so
which is funny
for all the people who want to do all the like spider webbing of like, oh my gosh, let's just figure out all the Nike free agents. He's close with other other guys too with other brands. So
yeah, true. Yeah, oh, that's a good point. It's not just limited to Nike people.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Damian Lillard, Nico Harrison connection, the Jason Kidd connection, and this is the reason why, we'll talk about this a little bit later too, why the Mavericks went this direction with Jason Kidd. Whether we agree with it or not, the reason why they went with Jason Kidd is because he may attract players more than Rick Carlisle would, which we agree that he'll attract more players than Rick Carlisle would. Like, right? Like,
yep.
You don't
have fun, Tony East.
What is it? You don't attract flies with vinegar? What is you attract it with?
Don't know.
Anyway, whatever that phrase is. And then Nico Harrison is supposed to have all the connections and get people and get players to come to Dallas. That's the whole point. The Mavericks have been saving up their money and striking out, and now this is the time when they could possibly try it again.
Yeah, they could try it again, but going back to your question, like, why do we do this to ourselves as Mavericks fan? I think since the KP trade specifically, it's kind of spoiled some people in the sense of, because I think one thing I've been annoyed with is just because they got KP like they did, the trade package that wasn't a lot to get KP,
No.
how it came out of nowhere. It was super quick. And it's like Mavericks working the silent, and it's like they landed KP. It's like, okay, because I've seen like other big names hit the market. And it's like, well, we got KP for, some expirings and a couple firsts, and it came out of nowhere too. So we can get any young star. I'm like, no. That was such a unique situation.
To your point you just made, the Mavs work in silence, all that stuff, and then the KP trade happened. Guess what? Brand new rules for all this. Like, brand new. There's brand new everything. Like, I would even go down to say the reporters that you trust, we don't know if they have the same connections anymore because Rick Carlisle and Donnie Nelson are both gone, right? Like, literal institutions of the franchise are now gone. So maybe the Mavs will be in a bunch of rumors, and it might not be all BS, right? Like,
a lot of resetting that's taking place.
There's a ton of reset with all that. So how do you know what's true and what's not? You listen to Locked On Mavs, subscribe to the YouTube channel, continue this podcast.
But going back to the Dame stuff, I mean, you don't want to do, like, if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, hey, I have a lot of hope that Damian Lillard is going to be a Dallas Maverick.
Yeah.
Don't get your hopes up too high.
Well, if you're talking to those people, it sounds like it's already there. So,
but it's just, you just ask yourself the natural questions of, I've already had it tweet out and say, like, what do we even have to offer? It's just, there's going to be, it would take Damian Lillard literally going to the Portland front office saying,
like Harden
hey,
with Brooklyn.
Yeah. Hey, you guys, y'all been awesome to me forever. Do me a last good service and send me to Dallas. Like, Dallas is the one spot. It would take that, and it would take Portland saying, okay, I think we can rehab KP's career and move forward with that. Like, it would take both of those things, because it's not like Dallas has the boatload of draft picks to throw in there. It's not like we have it's not like Josh Green is an SGA type of player.
Yeah,
it's none of that. So you would, like, the package would literally have to be a KP, those two future first, Jalen Brunson, and it's just like
Green and Terry, whoever they wanted.
Being honest, like, other teams are just going to have way bigger packages for that. So, yeah.
But the Mavericks also have cap space this offseason. So if there was some kind of play where they didn't want KP, could the Mavs pull off a Luka Dame KP thing? They're like, we don't want KP. Like, we don't want that. That's a distressed asset.
There's nothing for them to give, even for him to go in. Like, they're not going to give him away for free. So then it would just be like, hey, cool, we got 2 firsts and Terry.
I mean, that's something. It's
a
thing.
That's there has to be like, James Harden picked Brooklyn, but Brooklyn gave up, I mean, Captain Hook's treasure chest of draft picks. So it's like,
well, they gave up three first rounds and then the swaps, right?
And then a CVS receipt of pick swaps. And it's like, they got a ton of crap, and like, he put Philly on his list, right, too. So, and by all accounts, Ben Simmons was on the table. It's just a matter of how many other firsts, or if they put Maxey and stuff in the deal too. So it's like Ben Simmons and a ton of draft picks from the Nets was on the table for James Harden, even from the teams that he picked. So there has to be like a meet in the middle, like, hey, you can tell us some teams, but we're gonna get crap back for you too. So I just don't see a world in which, no matter what he wants, that just 2 draft picks from Dallas would be enough. So like, Dallas's trade package is that. It's KP, 2 firsts, Brunson, and whatever else you want to throw in there. It's just, I don't think that's going to be enough of what some other teams around the league would be able to put together. So I'm sorry. As far as fits, I'm sure you did too. I got a couple tweets saying, why would we even want Damian Lillard? We have. Like,
I was literally about to answer that. I think this is a straw man argument that why would the Mavs even want Damian Lillard, right? Like, why would they even want to bring him in? He would, it's like, it's like the conversation you guys had about Zach LaVine before last season, where he'd take the ball away from Luka. This is like,
no, he is not Zach.
First of all, Zach LaVine is on a different level than he was when we had that conversation, right? Like, that's totally different. Also, we were on board with Brad Beal at that same time, right? Like, we were like, yeah, Brad Beal, but no Zach LaVine at that point. Damian Lillard's on a different level than either of those guys. He's just completely different, right? Like that changes so much. If the ball is going to be taken out of Luka's hands, and it should be, like he needs to not handle the ball as much. And
should be at times. Should be at times.
And there needs to be somebody else to come in and be able to handle some offense, especially when Luka's on the bench, but also while Luka's on the floor too. Yeah. If it's going to be anybody, right? Like Damian Lillard is one of, I don't know, top 5 players that you would pick to be that, because he can hit all the shots. He can hit deep shots, changes the whole like spacing of the floor and everything for the Mavericks.
Just think about my mother-in-law. She'd be like, Zero is on the Mavs.
Zero is on the Mavs. Your mother-in-law, who's coming into town?
She is from Brazil next month.
What if the day your mother-in-law lands in Dallas is the day the Mavericks trade for Damian Lillard?
I'm not gonna lie. Mark Stein's tweet today got me double checking.
Oh, the one about the weather. Oh, come on.
It's like Dallas, Portland trade weather, and I'm like, whoa.
It's supposed to be 80s in Dallas this week, and it's supposed to be 111 in Portland or something crazy like that. That's
Dame's gonna request his trade this week.
The Earth might be flat, guys. I don't know.
Are we talking about Kyrie right now?
All right, let's get into Jason Kidd. We'll talk about that a little bit more, I guess, about Damian Lillard. And then you asked a great question on Twitter. I thought it was great. If you were able to get in front of the Mavs brain trust of Cuban, now Nico Harrison, Michael Finley, Dirk is also in there, and then Jason Kidd, what question would you ask him? I thought that was a great question. We'll talk about some of the answers. We'll give our responses and all that. But let's talk about Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar. It tastes like a candy bar. They're absolutely delicious. I eat one almost every day. Just reordered a new box. Strawberry. I'm interested to try strawberry.
Whoa.
All kinds of new flavors all the time. Again, a protein bar. It tastes like a candy bar. They have new flavors. German chocolate, orange, strawberry. Go get you some right now. The mint brownie, also always solid. Go get them. Go try them out. See what it's like. They're different than all the other protein bars that we've had before. Some of the protein bars are chalky. You don't like them. These are covered in 100% chocolate, and they're really good. They're pretty good in the fridge, too. They're a little bit, obviously, harder to eat if you put them in the fridge, but then they don't melt, all that stuff. There's pros and cons of it. Go to BuiltBar.com, use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your first order. Again, promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. All right, Isaac Harris. So, Damian Lillard coming to Dallas. For sure, right? One of the reasons why people are all talking about Damian Lillard is because of Jason Kidd. And because Jason Kidd apparently was the coach that Damian Lillard wanted. But now Jason Kidd is the Dallas Mavericks coach. Is this one of the reasons why the Mavericks picked Kidd specifically? Is it specifically because of Lillard or just because of his appeal to players in general?
I don't think it's specifically for Damian Lillard.
See, I have a conspiracy theory.
but I do think a lot of it has to do.
You ready?
I'm ready.
You ready for my conspiracy? I'm cutting you off just because I really want to share.
I'm watching the X-Files.
So, Nico Harrison, in his interview with the Mavericks, whether they did an interview or not, he's like, hey, I know some inside info. Damian Lillard's upset. He doesn't want to stay in Portland anymore. And I believe I can sway Lillard to come here. And we've learned now that Jason Kidd was a package deal with Nico Harrison, right? Like, We've learned that those two guys are together. And so you put your tinfoil hat on, and now all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, if those guys are going to come together, Nico Harris, like all that stuff, interesting. I'm ready.
What? But I mean,
if anybody's hopes were not up, I just put them all the way up, right?
The whole reason for Nico and Jason Kidd was to be more appealing for players across the league, to have these relationships, to make
and a player that they are both connected to recently just becomes like potentially available for the first time in his career.
I'm gonna smack you with that soundboard.
You can too. You can come over now.
But that example is the reason why this hire happened, because we talked about this on Friday of like, why do you hire This was honestly, we had so many questions today that, from the hypothetical question on Twitter, some type of iteration of why did you hire Jason Kidd?
Yeah.
Why did you hire Jason Kidd despite his off the court stuff? Why did you hire Jason Kidd despite his coaching failures? Because like we talked about on Friday, it's not just Kidd's off the court stuff, but it's also his coaching record too, that he's been a head coach twice before and it didn't work out. And that's talking, lightly on that. And now he's been an assistant. So if you're not hiring for all of that, then what are you hiring for? And it's for those connections. It's for that nostalgia of 2011. It's for that great basketball mind of when he played and playing that position, and this potential connection with Luka and all this different stuff. So yeah, that's you hire him for those situations like the Damian Lillards of the world, that if he has all these connections, that LeBron endorsed him on Twitter. And
it's true. And also Magic Johnson.
In Greece. Magic is how
conflicted were Mavs fans when Magic Johnson was like, yeah, seal of approval, Jason Kidd and Nico Harrison. Like, are we okay with that? Is that positive? Was that a good thing? Do we want that as Mavs fans? Like, what were Mavs fans thinking during that?
But can I give some thoughts on Jason Kidd stuff right now? Is now my time?
That's why I've transitioned into the Jason Kidd conversation. You see how I masterfully did that?
Look at you.
We've only been doing this for 5 years.
We are in our 5th year. So yeah, I've had the weekend to think more about it. You shared a lot on Friday. If you didn't listen to Friday's pod, go to Friday's pod. It was honestly, I got text and stuff from people on Friday afternoon saying they loved your passion and for opening up your heart about that subject. You basically had the whole second segment of the podcast that day. So make sure you go listen to that. I didn't share a ton that day. I echoed some of it, but I wanted to share a little bit where I'm at right now, because I think there's this middle ground that a lot of people don't want to admit that it's possible right now. I think social media and a lot of the internet, especially in this situation, you have to be one of two sides. And it's like this, you're either on this side that you have to be all against Jason Kidd being a head coach in Dallas, or you have to be on this side of saying, I don't care about anything that's happened in the past. He's a legend. It's awesome that he's a coach.
It's polarized. And if you disagree with Jason Kidd, then these are the arguments that you think. And if you're for Jason Kidd, then these are the arguments, and you can't think anything in the middle. Like, that's not true for this situation at all. Yes. It's not politics anymore, right? Like, this is a different thing. This is not Democrat or Republican. It doesn't always have to be like that.
Yeah, so I think there is a middle ground that I want us to be cognizant of right now, because this is where I'm finding myself in this middle ground of the Jason Kidd stuff, that I think you can be surprised that in light of everything that has happened over the past 2 to 3 years in Dallas, I mean, honestly, way before that, but in light of everything becoming public over the past, 3 or 4, years here in Dallas, I think you can be surprised that the Mavericks did hire somebody that had a past history with domestic violence, whether it was 5 years ago or 30 years ago. I think you can be in the middle ground of all that and understand that, but also understand that people change, right? I hope he has changed. Like, honestly, right. I hope he has. And it seems like if you just reading the tea leaves without even knowing him personally, without even getting to talk to him and anything, it seems like from the outside, things have changed. He's been married for 10 plus years now. He has a girls AAU team in California that Mark Spears wrote about in an Undefeated piece. I thought that was great. If he's going to be the head coach here in Dallas, then who had to have signed off on him? Sent Marshall. And if there's anybody in this franchise right now that I trust more than anybody, it's Sent Marshall. So it's like,
True.
I start looking at that stuff and saying, okay, people can change. You can recognize all of that. You can be excited about the nostalgia of 2011 in Dallas and have hope that the basketball mind of Jason Kidd can grow, he can grow as a coach too. Even though his past failures have happened as a coach, you can hope that he can grow as a coach and learn from that, which Mark Spears wrote about too. He answered that question, how he's grown as a coach. You can do all of that and believe that, man, he could be a great fit for Luka and connect with Luka. You can do all of that and believe all of that, but still say, I'm surprised that despite everything that's happened and came out over the past handful of years in Dallas, I'm shocked that they still hired somebody that was in their past. I think there's a middle ground in that, because I think there's also a part of us there's a portion of us that we're kind of contradicting ourselves in the topic of change, because I think some of us, one side will say, hey, something happened 20 years ago. Can't somebody change? Can't somebody learn from their mistakes? Change can happen, right? We can learn and grow as humans, right? Like, who you are 10 years ago doesn't mean you're the same person now, right? Like, you can mature as you get older, right? But in the same vein, we can look at the other side and say, okay, well, when you throw up the past, And you're saying, well, in 2011, I wasn't the same person now. And then the same side's looking at that side saying, okay, but you just talked about change with Jason Kidd. Well, what about me? Change can happen with me, right? I can learn and grow as time goes on. I can get better as a person. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. Like, if we're going to advocate for change, it has to be, you either believe in change, whether it's for yourself or other people or Jason Kidd, or you don't believe in change. And so we can't, both sides kind of have that you're contradicting ourselves on that both sides right now. So that's just, yeah.
There was an argument, if you're not online, if you're not super online, right? Like we are at times.
And that's a good reminder. And I'm sorry, but Twitter is not the entire fan base. How many people have reached out to us and DM'd us over the past 4 years and said, I just started a Twitter just to contact you guys and to connect with you guys.
Probably like over 50. Like,
it's
honestly.
always a reminder that Twitter does not represent a whole fan base. There's so many fans out there that listen to this podcast, like, and our Mavs fans around the world who don't have a Twitter. So you always keep that in the back of your mind.
But if you are one of those people that aren't on Twitter, aren't in the YouTube comments, the argument that people making was, well, you guys came so hard down on Jason Kidd and the Mavericks decision. We're so surprised that they made the decision. Where were you in 2011 when they won the title, when Jason Kidd was the coach, or Jason Kidd was the, the starting point guard? Like, why didn't you come down on him then? Right? Like, and yeah, maybe we should have. We also didn't have this platform. There's all a bunch of different reasons, but Isaac's point still stands. I just want to make sure people understood what the argument the other side was, the other people were making, was that, why didn't you say anything about him then? Why weren't you against him then? Why haven't you talked about it then? It's like,
and some people's response to that is, well, man, I was so young back then. I mean, how many people have we seen respond to that pushback of saying, I was 15, I was 17, I was 20, I was 22, I was in college, I was in middle school, I was in high school. And it's like, how many people have responded that way of saying, man, I'm so much different now as an adult than I was when I was 16, 18, 21, whatever it is. I've changed a lot. I've grown. I'm just saying what other people are saying right now of defending that. But the other side doesn't want to give that side the grace of change, right? But still arguing that Jason Kidd can change. So yeah, we have to recognize that people can change across the board on both sides. So I just find myself in the middle right now. There is so much about Jason Kidd that, especially over the weekend, I'm like, you know what, man, Jason Kidd, Luka, can they have a connection to in 2011, the nostalgia of that? Maybe reading the Mark Spears piece about how he's grown as a coach since Milwaukee and Brooklyn, how much he wants to change since then. Reading all the off-the-court stuff of his AU team and him being married for these past 10 years. And hopefully we learn more and more about him, that he's been employed by 3 other NBA teams before Dallas. This isn't his first job in the NBA world since 2001. Like, I'm looking at all that, and I'm like hopeful for the future. I'm hopeful to see what happens of this. I'm like, okay, a new chapter after Rick Carlisle. But I'm still shocked, and I'm still surprised, and I'm still here to hear all of the hurt and the pain from people who are saying, man, like, this hurts me. Like, I'm still shocked that a franchise hired somebody who had that happen in their past, whether it's 2 years ago or 30 years ago. There's a middle ground in that, and that's where I stand.
Yeah, and for me too, there has to be questions answered, right? Has Jason Kidd grown? Has he changed? Will the Mavericks address this, and in what way will they address it, right? Who signed off on it? Did Cint Marshall sign off on him? If Cint Marshall signed off on it, I'll go with it, right? Like,
I'm fully expecting Cint Marshall to, if she's not, I'm expecting her to be present at the introductory press conference somehow. If it's in person, yeah, but I think we'll see a statement from her. I think when they introduce them as a head coach, all this, we'll see something from her. And if she endorses them publicly and is all about that, which if he's going to get hired, she is endorsing it, that I trust Cint Marshall.
Yeah. And so, we'll see. Time will tell on that. And so it's just questions have to be answered. And it's going to be a little bit more complicated than if they had hired a coach without that kind of history. And that's why we were surprised. That's why we were taken aback by it. Coming up, let's get into your question about the brain trust, the Mavs brain trust. So if you could ask one question to the Mavericks whole, everybody running the ship right now, what would you ask them? Let's get into that. But before we do, betonline.ag. You can go and put down some money on, let's see, Monday, if you're listening, watching this on YouTube, the Suns 5.5-point favorite to close out the Clippers in Phoenix. That game is going to be really, really interesting. I'm excited to watch
Phoenix
that game.
too.
I'm excited. I'm excited for Phoenix Suns fans, even though lots
Yeah.
of them were very mean to us when we didn't think they were going to be better than the Jazz.
I don't care. Sure.
There's one guy, right? There's one guy, Steven, I think, that listens to this podcast and is also a Suns fan. So shout out to Steven. Hopefully your team makes the finals on Monday. But if you want to put down some money, 5.5-point favorite for the Suns, if you think they're going to take that. But if you think it's a real close game, 1 point, then put it on the Clippers. You have 5.5 points that you can cover that spread there. So go ahead, put some money. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. Get a 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. All kinds of other stuff. There's going to be Olympic stuff. There's going to be golf. There's hockey still with the Stanley Cup playoffs. There's baseball always going. All kinds of stuff. BetOnline.ag. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. All right, Isaac Harris, you posed this question on Twitter. I thought it was great. Go follow at Locked On Mavs. We're real close to 6,000, so go follow us. We're also real close to 5,000 subs on YouTube, so shout out to everybody that has followed us and subscribed. So far, we have 5 videos over 10,000 views. It's growing, man. We're growing. You can also tell that lots of crazy drama has happened for the Mavs, right? If we are getting numbers like that.
And your boy is verified on Twitter now.
Hey!
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it, Nick. Nick is to thank for that. Both of your hosts of Locked On Mavs is verified.
Verified. We did it. Almost everybody in the NBA channel is verified now. So Locked On NBA, go follow everybody. All right.
We're on the dark side now.
You posed we posed the question. If you could ask Mark Cuban, Nico Harrison, Michael Finley, Dirk, Jason Kidd, if they're all in a room together and you sit in front of them and ask them a question, what would you ask them?
Yeah. So we got a ton of different responses to this. We might, turn this into another pod later in the week.
For sure.
But the first one I just put down, what year is it? 2011? That's what I think Kevin Gray said that. And it's obviously a joke to it because we've seen reporting over the weekend and we're going to see this this coming week. Guys, we've been saying this on this podcast. JJ Barea is going to be an assistant.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Calling this and saying this over and over for over a week now. More reportings coming out on that, hey, this might happen. Put it in the bank. So JJ Barea, Jason Terry. Now, I didn't know anything about Jason Terry being considered for anything until that report came out. So I was hyped for that. Michael, is the 2011 stuff? Kirk had an incredible tweet of the Drake meme saying not bringing back 2011 team in 2012, but bringing the team back in 2021. Incredible tweet. Where do you stand on that? Do you stand in the corner of, okay, we're pushing too hard just to make the nostalgia happen? Or are you this is really dope and I'm all about it. The more the merrier we can bring it.
Well, I think that these guys have also proven that they can be in these roles, right? I think JJ Barea is definitely a guy that could be there. I think Jason Terry went out and got some coaching experience, right? I think these guys have also grown to that point. But yeah, bring it back. I mean, heck yeah. To get a little leadership there, players that have been there. We also do need some coaches that have actually coached, right? At some point. So it can't just be Jason Kidd's the head coach, JJ Barea, Jet as assistants, Dirk as an assistant, Tyson Chandler, strength and conditioning. You know what I mean? You can't just Sean Marion as assistant coach, Sean Stevenson in the, I don't know, whatever he was going to, hype man position.
Somebody tweeted and said, how much for Brian Cardinal to actually clean the bathrooms at the AC? No, we're going too far.
Those Mavs feature presentation things, during games, they need to do some sort of reunion special, the Friends reunion. They should just spoof that with all the different Mavs that are going to be back from 2011.
It would be really cool.
Have Brian Cardinal green screen, sweeping the floor in the back.
It would be really cool though. Imagine Dirk front row, setting beside Cuban, Jason Kidd's coaching, JJ Barea and Jason Terry are sitting on the assistant seats, and then Tyson Chandler's at the end of the bench as the vet guy on the roster. It's wow, my mind's exploding right now.
Why do you think Tyson's still playing?
Yeah, I guess I don't know if he's officially retired, but okay. Another question. I thought this was an incredible question. This person said if they were at lunch with Cuban and all those guys, he would ask the question, what do each of you bring to the table for the organization that will set the franchise up for successful playoff runs? So basically, Mark, Jason Kidd, Finley, Nico Harrison, Dirk, this guy is asking, what do each of you bring to the table that like you each unique have like your own path lane. And I thought that was fascinating to think about, because I think for Dirk, I think there's a little PR to it, a little bit. I think I think it does make the fan base like, man, Dirk's involved. This is awesome. Yeah. Like, it makes you feel better about it. I also think Dirk provides a Luka connection, because Luka respects the heck out of Dirk Nowitzki. Yep. We know that. So I think there's a little Dirk Luka connection in that. And they really value what, Dirk's opinion for the front office.
Well, let's be clear though. Dirk is not like in a full-time like position with the Mavs. Like, he's part of this advisory board. Now that they've hired people, we don't know if he's going to stay in that, like, stay in the front office, right? Do we know that?
I think he'll stick around. I don't know the extent of that role, but you look at like the Nico Harrison move, that has a lot of connections, there's a lot of relationships. Like, that's his lane. Like, he has all these relationships across the league that varies across the boards. Okay. Finley has all these relationships that's already established in like front offices. He's been in grooming under Donnie Nelson in this to be this president of basketball operation, all this stuff. Mark has his own lane. And
it's cryptocurrency.
Haralabob. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
just kidding. We still don't know the status of Haralabob.
That was I think the question you got the most from that tweet was where's Bob?
Where's Bob? I mean, it's still my number one question. Like, that's still beside my number one question right now is kind of twofold. It's where's Bob? Yep. And I just want to know what Luka thinks of Jason Kidd. I'm so intrigued by that, because I think a lot of us, we know how much he loved Mosley. We know that. And we still stand for Mosley. I want him to be a head coach in this league.
Yeah.
And if he leaves the Mavericks, totally get it. Love that guy. We know how much Luka loves Mosley. What we don't know is what he thinks of Jason Kidd. If Luka comes out in 2 weeks and says, Jason Kidd was one of my favorite players growing up, he's like somebody I try to model my game after. I love his brilliant mind of basketball. Like, Luka doesn't go that in depth with his answers, but if he comes out and he's like, man, and he just like glowingly endorses Jason Kidd, then it's like, okay, like, we knew you liked Mosley, but you also like Jason Kidd too. And I know some of you tweeted at me saying, hey, Stephen A said that, but if you start a tweet with me saying, according to Stephen A, then I might block you. I might. Just giving you a heads up. But yeah.
But the thing is, we don't know now about the connections. Like, what if Nico Harrison and Stephen A were tight? We don't know that, right? Like, that could be Stephen A could be the next like Mavs insider.
Stephen A is doing exclusives.
He might be. He tries to. What's the other one you got? What's the one you got the second most besides after the Haralabob Garris thing?
Well, we had a lot of KP ones, a lot of offseason stuff. I'll just lump in the offseason one. It says, are you willing to give up on a superstar? And this honestly comes full circle to Damian Lillard. Are you willing to give up on a superstar pipe dream to commit to impactful two-way players? So
it's a huge question.
It's the whole Giannis conversation, right? From a couple off seasons ago. It's like, are you still going to be in that spot to where you're saving your money back? You don't want to spend $60 million on Gallinari or trade, for Capella or hand Bogdanovich, just massive deal. If you don't want to do any of that because you're holding out for Giannis, when does that mindset ever change? Are you always going to do that? Or are you going to just say, you know what? We're tired of holding out to swing for the big fishes. It's time for us to go get our Gallinaris, Capellas, and Bogdanoviches. Like, we'll spend the money and go get these guys to surround Luka and try to take that next step. Great question we don't know the answer to.
Nope. And hopefully we'll find out soon. We'll find out what the Mavericks think. Based on these two hires, I think they're still going to try to swing for the fences.
Yeah, I think especially in the short term. I mean, so much over what happens over these next few months is fascinating. What will the fan base or what will people think if they go out in the next 2 months, if on draft night they pull off some massive trade and land like a legit second person next to Luka, and you're like,
Beal or Lillard or one of these guys.
Nico like made this happen, or like a couple of guys. Let's just say, take fit out of it. Let's just say Kyle Lowry and DeRozan like team up to come to Dallas, and they like mention Nico Harrison as like, we know Nico, and then it's like, take fit all of it. Remember that, take fit out of it. But it's like two big like high profile names came to Dallas because of that, and then you're like, oh, okay. Like, this is how this can be different moving forward. This changed things, those relationships with Nico, Jason. They mentioned Jason Kidd. We want to play with J Kidd, all this stuff. Like, that's That's the type of stuff. And we'll see. We'll see. If they strike out and it's just like a few, things around the edges this summer, I think we'll still be like, oh, we got to give a few more summers, see what it is. But if they go swing big this summer, it'll be like, this is why they went and got those guys.
Hopefully that answer will be answered soon. Look out for the press conference, hopefully coming this week. We'll see, but subscribe to the podcast. YouTube, guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.